The story begins with the arrival of JJ, a senior high school transferee at Higher Value International School. As she walks through the campus, she can't hide her amazement at her new school. The students look classy, the facilities are modern and clean, and the hallway feels as if she is inside a shopping mall. JJ goes to the reception area to ask where Section E is. However, there is a hint of mockery in the reaction of the two attendants when they hear the name of her section. They tell her that the Section E building is at the far end, at the very back of the campus. When JJ arrives at the place, she is shocked by what she sees. The building is old and dirty, the hallway is dark, the surroundings are messy, and the walls are covered in vandalism. The furniture is broken and carelessly piled up. As JJ walks, she comes across a group of male students hanging out and having fun. She calls out to them. The group's laughter stops and they all turn to face her at once. JJ is momentarily stunned when her eyes lock with Kiefer, one of the group members. She asks if room 503 is the classroom for Section E. Kiefer answers her rudely, saying it is in another building. He even shouts at JJ and drives her away. Because of this, JJ loses her temper and walks off, extremely annoyed. When JJ arrives at another building, she sees room 503 and immediately goes in and takes a seat. The students inside look at her in confusion. Moments later, she is warmly greeted by Raki, the class president. Raki looks at JJ's registration form and gently tells her that she is in the wrong room. She has entered the classroom for Section C. JJ quickly stands up and rushes out of the room, deeply embarrassed. JJ runs back to the old building. When she enters the classroom, she notices that all the students are boys, noisy, unruly, and the room is a complete mess. She is greeted by Mr. Alvin, the English teacher and class advisor of Section E. JJ introduces herself to the whole class, but the students give no reaction. Because of this, Mr. Alvin calls on the class president to see if he has any questions for their new classmate. Unfortunately, it turns out that Kiefer is the class president. He asks JJ if she is still a virgin. The entire class bursts into laughter, clearly amused by the vulgar question. Mr. Alvin scolds Kiefer, but the disappointment is evident on JJ's face. A heated exchange of words follows between the two. While class is ongoing, JJ keeps getting hit by crumpled paper thrown by her classmates. She can't take it anymore and angrily demands to know who keeps throwing things at her, but no one admits to it. After Mr. Santo's class, the paper throwing only gets worse. Frustrated and fed up, she grabs her bag and walks out of the classroom. JJ heads straight to the cafeteria to buy food. Raki sees her and immediately invites her to eat with a few other classmates. Her cousin, Aries, is also there with his girlfriend. Raki asks JJ how things are going in Section E. JJ replies that her classmates are treating her well. The group exchanges glances. They aren't convinced, knowing the students in that section have a notorious reputation. Aries chimes in, saying JJ is a perfect fit for Section E, clearly mocking her. The tension between the two cousins is evident. JJ is about to eat when several of her classmates suddenly appear. Without warning, they take all her food. One of them, Felix, approaches her and apologizes for his classmates' behavior. He warns JJ not to take out food carelessly because they would just grab it from her. JJ asks why they don't just buy their own food from the canteen. Felix replies that all of them are banned from entering the canteen. A few moments later, JJ tries to take out food again, but Felix immediately snatches it away. When another teacher enters the room, she is irritated by how messy and dirty the classroom is. She tells the class that she has to attend a meeting, and by the time she returns, the entire room should be clean. But instead of following her instructions, the students all leave. Kiefer orders JJ to clean the room. He even locks the door so JJ can't get out. Furious but helpless, JJ has no choice but to clean alone, while her classmates mock her and watch through the window. As JJ cleans, she begins to notice the items around the classroom. She starts looking at them one by one, until her eyes land on an old locker with the names of her classmates on it. Her gaze stops at a locker labeled Ella Diane. Just as she is about to open it, Kiefer suddenly appears and sternly warns her, it is off limits. The two of them get into another heated argument. That evening, JJ is greeted by her aunt, Tita Gemma. She asks how her day goes. JJ just smiles and says her first day at the new school is okay. While they eat, Tita Gemma happily tells her that her grandmother has recovered. A Upon hearing this, JJ apologizes to her aunt for the trouble she has caused and for staying at their house. But her aunt tells her not to worry as long as she keeps her promise to graduate from high school and stay out of trouble. The next day, JJ goes into an empty room on the second floor to eat without being disturbed. But she is surprised when someone suddenly calls out to her. It is Kiefer, who has been sleeping in a corner. Kiefer sits beside her, takes JJ's packed food and starts eating. JJ has no choice but to share with him, even though she feels a bit awkward. While they eat, JJ can't help but stare at Kiefer's face. She smiles, amazed by this unexpected side of him. Kiefer seems like a different person now, quieter, calmer. But the moment is broken when Kiefer suddenly scolds her for staring. To change the subject, JJ asks why he doesn't just buy food from the canteen. Kiefer replies that they are all forbidden from going there. After a while, Kiefer suddenly stands up and leaves the room, leaving JJ alone. The next day, JJ is given a list of food she needs to buy for her classmates. But she refuses. Because of this, Kiefer gets annoyed and bluntly says he doesn't like JJ's presence, and if he wants to, he can have her kicked out of Section E. So if JJ wants to stay, he says it's better if she just follows orders. The tension between them heats up again, but it suddenly stops when Mr. Alvin arrives. During lunch break, a student arrives, Yuri. His classmates greet him happily because he brings food for everyone. He notices JJ. He approaches her and glares at her. JJ feels uneasy, so she asks if there's something on her face. Yuri doesn't answer. He returns to his group, clearly annoyed. Felix explains that JJ is a transfer student. Once Yuri leaves, JJ asks Felix who the guy is and why he has only shown up now. Felix replies that Yuri was suspended for a few days because he went to the canteen even though it was forbidden. At Section E's usual hangout spot, Kiefer and Yuri meet. They talk about JJ. Kiefer says she is different, she's not like the other girls they've already driven out of Section E, so they need a more extreme strategy, either scare or harass her until she leaves the school for good. The next day, JJ is surprised to see her older cousin, Angelo, having breakfast. While eating, JJ asks Angelo about Section E, especially since he used to be a student there. He says there was no Section E back then, it was only created to place students with cases or known troublemakers until they graduate. He also mentions that even back then there were never any female students in Section E, and if there were, they would be quickly transferred to another section. JJ is on her way to school when she passes by a guy arguing in the street. When he sees her, he calls out and introduces himself as CN, one of her classmates. As they walk together, JJ asks why Section E is banned from the canteen. CN says he'll only answer the question if she buys him food during lunch break. The girl agrees. CN shares that they once had a female classmate named Ella. She was beautiful, kind, and was being courted by Kiefer. But one day, Ella was transferred to another section and suddenly became distant from him. One time, Kiefer saw Ella in the canteen, kissing someone. He got furious and went on a rampage, destroying everything in the canteen. Because of that incident, all Section E students were banned from entering. Since then, Kiefer has not wanted any female students in their section. In an empty classroom, JJ is about to eat when she notices a letter placed on a chair. It's addressed to Calix from Micah. JJ gets giddy upon seeing the letter, so she hides it in her bag. After the last class in the afternoon, while JJ packs up her things and is about to leave, she suddenly can't stand up. Her skirt is stuck to the chair. She realizes that Kiefer put glue on her seat. JJ is furious while her classmates laugh as they leave the room. She calls out to CN and Felix for help. At first they hesitate, afraid of Kiefer, but eventually they agree to help. They pull JJ off the chair, but with the force of the pull, her skirt tears. CN quickly hands her his jacket to cover the ripped clothing. While walking around campus, JJ watches the people around her. She has no idea how she'll get home in that condition. After a few moments, she suddenly decides to confront Kiefer and his group. CN tries to stop her, but she doesn't listen. When she sees Kiefer, she storms up to him in anger and tells them directly that she won't be easily kicked out of Section E. Then she throws CN's jacket at Kiefer's face and walks away. Everyone is stunned by what she just did. CN accompanies JJ on the way home. He even lends her an extra jacket. On his way back, CN runs into the group of guys he previously fought with. They threaten him, saying that after they're done hurting CN, JJ will be next. But CN doesn't back down and immediately challenges them to a fight. Meanwhile, when JJ gets home, she hears Angelo scolding Aries. Their conversation stops only when they see JJ arrive. Angelo tells Aries that starting tomorrow, he will take JJ to school with him. The next day, when JJ arrives in the classroom, she wonders why CN isn't there yet. A few moments later, Kiefer and Yuri arrive and hand her a list of food she's supposed to buy from the canteen. When JJ refuses, Kiefer threatens her, "We'll eat you if you don't follow orders." She has no choice but to obey. As JJ walks out of the canteen carrying a mountain of food, she runs into Aries and his girlfriend. Aries asks if the food is for Section E. He orders JJ to return everything to the canteen, but JJ doesn't listen. She turns around and quickly walks away. When JJ arrives at Section E, chaos erupts. They can finally eat. Felix even invites her to eat with them. Yuri, meanwhile, just glares at her with hatred. During a class recitation, the teacher calls out JJ's full name, Jasper Jean Fernandez Mariano. The teacher asks if she's related to Aries Fernandez. The whole class, especially Kiefer and Yuri, is shocked when JJ says that she and Aries are cousins. The tension in the classroom immediately rises. After class, JJ notices that her classmates are avoiding her. Even Felix no longer talks to her. That night, she approaches Aries and asks if he did something to Section E. JJ tells him that ever since her classmates found out they're related, everyone suddenly started treating her differently. Aries doesn't give her a proper answer. At the Section E hangout spot, Kiefer's group is busy investigating JJ's background online. Based on her old school records, they discover that JJ was often involved in trouble. In one incident, she even stabbed a classmate with a pencil. They also find out that she comes from a broken family and is currently living with Aries' family. Given everything they uncover, they begin to suspect that Aries may have sent JJ to Section E to spy on them. After the last class, the teacher instructs the students to clean the classroom before going home, but as usual, no one listens. They all walk out, leaving JJ alone to do the cleaning. A little later, Kiefer walks back in and dumps the contents of the trash bin to provoke JJ. Within moments, the two are already at each other's throats. Yuri steps in and tries to stop Kiefer before things escalate. In the end, both Kiefer and JJ are forced to clean the classroom, though the tension between them still lingers. The next morning, JJ runs into CN on the way to school. She notices the bruises and scratches on CN and asks what happened, but he avoids the question and doesn't admit anything. JJ also shares that their classmates have been avoiding her ever since they found out she and Aries are cousins. She even asks CN if he's going to avoid her too, now that he knows the truth. CN replies that he would never do that. When JJ and CN enter the classroom, they're shocked by the scene in front of them. Kiefer and David are in a fistfight while the other students shout and cheer. The two can no longer be stopped, so JJ grabs a chair and slams it down in front of them to break up the fight. Because of the chaos, Yuri suggests holding a re-election for class president after class. Everyone agrees. But what JJ thought would be a simple election turns out to be another fistfight. Whoever remains standing will become the new class president. The match between Kiefer and David begins. They trade punches and shoves, neither one willing to back down. But Kiefer is clearly the better fighter. In the end, he wins. The students cheer while David is left lying on the ground. Feeling sorry for David, JJ helps him up and walks with him, supporting him as they go. The next morning, JJ brings sandwiches for CN and David. But it's clear that Kiefer and Yuri are not pleased. They glare at her with hostility. It seems some of their classmates are slowly warming up to JJ, and they don't like it one bit. A little later, it's announced that their PE class will be held in the gym that morning. JJ is stunned when she sees her classmates changing clothes right there in the classroom. She tries to stop them, but they ignore her completely. For a moment, time seems to stop for JJ as her eyes land on Kiefer while he's changing. She's visibly flustered, unable to hide the admiration and giddiness on her face as she stares at Kiefer's good looks. CN notices JJ smiling while staring at Kiefer's body and quickly teases her about it. While students of Section E are exercising in the gym, Aries, Ella, Michael, and Kiko arrive to watch. Kiefer is visibly fuming with anger, especially when he sees how sweet Aries and Ella are with each other. JJ notices this. That's when she realizes that Ella, Aries' girlfriend, is the same girl Kiefer used to court. Fueled by anger, Kiefer takes it out on JJ. With a few classmates involved, they deliberately aim the volleyball at her. She gets annoyed and scolds them, but they don't stop. Eventually, Kiefer hurls the ball straight at JJ, hitting her directly in the face and knocking her to the ground. Everyone falls silent. Aries immediately rushes over to JJ. Her face is bloodied from the injury on her nose. When JJ sees the blood on her own hand, she suddenly becomes hysterical. A painful memory suddenly resurfaces in her mind. Fortunately, Aries is there, and with his help, JJ gradually calms down. Kiefer and his classmates stay silent, unable to utter a single word. JJ has been absent from school for a week after what happened at the gym. When Aunt Gemma brings food to her room, she asks her aunt if she can just quit studying. Aunt Gemma says there are many ways to stand up to bullies without fighting, but if none work, she should do what she thinks is right. JJ goes to the pharmacy to buy medicine. Kiefer and a few classmates unexpectedly run into her. They persuade her to go to a cafe. Once seated, Kiefer suddenly touches the wound on JJ's nose. She screams in pain. Kiefer brings JJ's face close to his and slowly sticks a Band-Aid on her nose. The girl no longer resists, she just stares at Kiefer's face. After a moment, their dessert order arrives. JJ isn't happy. She asks Kiefer if that is a bribe for what they did to her. She adds that it would be better if they just apologized. Kiefer simply replies that he doesn't have the habit of apologizing or explaining. JJ feels disappointed, stands up and leaves Kiefer. But after a while she returns just to get the dessert. JJ returns to school. As she walks across the campus, CN greets her cheerfully and immediately asks how she is. CN then asks if JJ is afraid of blood since she became hysterical when she saw blood on her hand. JJ replies that she doesn't remember anything that happened. JJ goes straight to the restroom in the other building. While she is inside the cubicle, Freya and her friends enter the restroom. JJ is shocked when she overhears them talking about her. They say she's not pretty and that she's from Section E. She also hears Freya call Ella flirtatious. Annoyed, JJ suddenly comes out and splashes water on Freya and her friends' faces. JJ runs to the Section E classroom and hides. But Freya follows her and drags her out of the room. JJ's classmates then gather to watch the commotion. After a while, some students from other sections arrive, including Aries and Ella. A confrontation breaks out between JJ and Freya. Freya even gives an orientation about the school's hierarchy system. She explains that Section A is called the royalty section, where only the best students belong. Section B students are known for their diligence. Section C students are kind-hearted. Section D students are considered servants. Meanwhile, Section E students are seen as scum and useless at HVIS. In the middle of the confrontation, JJ reveals what she overheard in the restroom, that Freya called Ella flirtatious and said she's had many boyfriends. Because of this, Aries gets angry. Freya strongly denies the accusation and points to Micah, one of her friends, as the one who said it. She immediately orders that Micah be punished. But before that can happen, Calix, a student from Section E, steps in to defend Micah. The confrontation erupts into a fight and chaos among the students present. In the midst of the commotion, someone is about to throw dirty water on JJ when David suddenly steps in to block it and protect her. They immediately run away together. David is taken to the clinic. He has an allergic reaction from the dirty water poured on him. While at the clinic, Kiefer notices that JJ is in pain from her back. When he checks, he sees numerous scratches made by Freya's group. He slowly applies medicine to JJ's back. One day, Kiefer mentions to Yuri how they can get back at Aries. He will make JJ fall for him. Once he has completely won her over, he will hurt her. Yuri agrees to Kiefer's plan. The students of Section E attend the monthly assembly, except for JJ. Kiefer refuses to allow her to come because of the trouble she created last week. When the students return to the classroom, they are shocked to find JJ collapsed on the floor, writhing in pain. They ask her what happened, but she refuses to speak. Kiefer and Yuri just watch silently, both looking puzzled. At Section E's hangout spot, JJ becomes the target of teasing. Some of her classmates make fun of her, passing her bag around like a toy. On the side, Kiefer and Yuri just smile as they watch the scene, clearly entertained by what the others are doing. A moment later, CN hurriedly approaches Kiefer. He tells him that JJ is in the gym, fighting with the boys who hurt her. Inside the gym, JJ bravely faces 3 students from Section D, but after a short while, she collapses to the floor after being struck in the back, barely able to get up. One of the boys steps closer, ready to hurt her again. Before it can happen, Kiefer suddenly arrives. He moves quickly, stopping the attacker at once. JJ can't believe what she's seeing. A fight breaks out between Kiefer, JJ, and the 3 students from Section D. After the fight, both Kiefer and JJ collapse to the floor from exhaustion. Moments later, Yuri and CN arrive to help, but Kiefer is already gone. Yuri approaches JJ and lifts her up. Yuri pleads with her to take the blame for everything that happened in the gym. Kiefer can no longer be involved in any trouble. JJ agrees. The following day, heavy rain pours relentlessly. Suddenly, an announcement is made that classes are canceled. The students cheer with excitement. JJ quickly texts Aries to ask if she can go home with him, but there is no reply. One by one, her classmates leave. In the end, only Yuri remains. JJ and Yuri leave the building together. The rain is still pouring hard. As they walk, JJ can't resist teasing Yuri, calling him Kiefer too because they have the same attitude. Yuri grows increasingly annoyed at the teasing. A moment later, JJ's feet get stuck in the mud. She calls out to Yuri for help. Yuri lifts and pulls her, but they both end up falling into the mud. Soaked and covered in dirt, they try to get back on their feet. In their rush, JJ accidentally hits Yuri. At the school gate, JJ keeps trying to contact Aries, but there's still no answer. Moments later, a car stops in front of her. It's Yuri. He rolls down the window and invites JJ to ride home with him. The roads leading to JJ's house are flooded. Yuri decides to head to his place first. JJ is surprised when they arrive at the luxurious Hanamichi Hotel instead of a regular home. Her amazement grows when she learns that the entire hotel belongs to Yuri's grandfather. When they reach Yuri's unit, he tells her to take a shower and change clothes. After bathing, JJ opens the window and pauses. She is mesmerized by the stunning view of the city. Moments later, Yuri enters the room. They chat while resting. In the middle of their conversation, JJ says that he and Kiefer are different. He's easier to approach and talk to. Yuri doesn't reply, he simply gazes at JJ. A little later, Yuri's grandfather calls him for dinner. JJ comes along. He promptly asks Yuri who the girl with him is. As they talk, it becomes clear that the grandfather and grandson have a strained relationship. A few moments later, the grandfather begins interviewing JJ. He asks about her parents. When he learns that JJ is related to Michael Angelo Fernandez, the new CEO of Fur Corp, he suddenly smiles. The next day, Kiefer spots JJ and Yuri laughing together as they walk into the classroom. Yuri wears a smile he rarely shows. Kiefer can't help but ask what's going on between him and JJ. Yuri tells him about what happened yesterday. He quickly assures Kiefer that nothing will change in their plan. A little later, JJ and Kiefer are called to the guidance office. The 3 students they fought with in the gym file a complaint. According to them, they are just hanging around when JJ suddenly approaches. Without warning, she charges at them and starts punching. Moments later, Kiefer arrives and joins in the beating. JJ recalls Yuri's request not to involve Kiefer. In front of the guidance counselor, she takes full responsibility. She says that she alone planned everything and that Kiefer had nothing to do with it. Because of this, JJ's guardian, Angelo, is called in. After the meeting, Angelo immediately scolds her. Before leaving, he hands JJ his credit card so she can buy food and anything else she needs. That night, Aries and Tita Gemma are surprised by the number of things JJ buys, including a new bicycle. When they ask where she got the money, she says it's from Kuya Angelo. Aries frowns and remarks sarcastically that she has taken advantage of their brother's kindness. He becomes even more irritated when he learns that JJ has already been suspended, yet still goes shopping as if nothing happened. That same night, Kiefer goes to Yuri's house with some of their classmates. Amid the laughter and drinking, the conversation turns to their long-standing plan, taking revenge on Aries through JJ. But Yuri stays silent. The familiar rush of excitement is gone. He's no longer sure if what they're doing is right. The next day, JJ returns to class after her suspension. She's happily greeted by CN and David. She notices a change in her classmates' behavior toward her, kinder, warmer. It seems Kiefer has begun putting his plan into motion to make JJ develop feelings. One morning, JJ is walking when she hears someone crying behind the trash bins. To her surprise, she sees that it is Micah hiding. She says Aries ordered some students from Section D to harass her. Feeling sorry for her, JJ brings Micah to Section E's classroom. The whole class, especially Calix, is puzzled when they see JJ with Micah. Moments later, Kiefer and Yuri arrive. They ask what Micah is doing in the classroom. Kiefer disagrees with letting her stay. He doesn't want Section E to get dragged into another section's trouble. But JJ doesn't listen. The two argue again. JJ asks why Kiefer helped her when she was in trouble. But now he refuses to do the same for Micah. This gives Kiefer a chance to put his plan into action. He answers JJ, because you're different. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't care about anyone else. JJ falls silent, unsure of what to say. Meanwhile, Yuri struggles to hide the jealousy he feels. JJ walks Micah home, while CN, David, and Calix follow from a distance. Along the way, JJ asks Micah about her and Calix. Micah shares that she used to have a crush on him. She gathered the courage to write him a letter confessing her feelings. Eventually, they became a couple. But they kept their relationship a secret from others. One day, Micah meets Ella at a cafe. There, Ella admits that both Kiefer and Yuri confessed their feelings to her. She doesn't know what to do. She likes Kiefer, but she doesn't want to hurt Yuri. Ella also mentions that she heard rumors Calix has another girlfriend. She warns Micah to be careful. Micah cannot believe what she hears. But one day, Micah catches Calix kissing another girl. Heartbroken, she breaks up with him. Realizing his mistake, Calix tries to win her back, but to this day, Micah remains undecided about forgiving him. When JJ arrives home, she immediately confronts Aries. She asks him to stop the students of Section D from harassing Micah. She has nothing to do with their conflict. But Aries refuses to listen. Ella overhears the cousins' argument and asks Aries what he has done to Micah. Aries can't give an answer, so Ella walks out upset. The next day, Ella goes to Section E to personally thank JJ for helping Micah. She also pleads with her to keep Micah away from Calix. But JJ refuses. She believes it isn't their place to interfere with the decisions of the two. Ella accepts her answer. When JJ returns to the classroom, she is surprised to see the entire class waiting for her. They immediately ask what Ella told her. JJ simply replies that she thanked her and asked for a small favor. A little later, Calix rushes out toward the school lobby. His classmates notice and quickly follow him. To their surprise, they witness an unexpected scene. Michael from Section AE is down on one knee, asking Micah to be his girlfriend. The students watching cheer excitedly, including Aries and Ella. Suddenly, JJ steps in and tells Micah to think carefully about her decision. Michael, angered by JJ's interference, charges at her. But before he can get close, Kiefer and Yuri immediately step in to defend JJ. Moments later, Calix approaches Micah. In front of the crowd, he apologizes and confesses how much he loves her. He pleads for just a moment of her time so they can talk privately. Meanwhile, JJ can't help but feel giddy watching the scene. Kiefer and Yuri quietly keep their eyes on her. In the end, Micah agrees to talk with Calix somewhere else, just the two of them. JJ approaches Calix, who is alone and lost in deep thought. She hands him a letter she found in an empty room, addressed to him. Calix opens it and begins to read. It turns out to be from Micah. As he goes through the words, tears suddenly stream down his face. He is furious at himself for all the pain he caused her. But when JJ reads the final part of the letter aloud, that if he just shouted that he loves Micah, all her resentment would vanish. Calix feels a surge of hope. He abruptly stands up and runs off, desperate to find Micah. Kiefer and JJ keep an eye on Calix and Micah as they meet. Moments later, Calix suddenly shouts that he loves Micah. JJ feels giddy with excitement, barely able to contain her joy as she watches them. Suddenly, Kiefer comments that the scene is so corny. JJ laughs and teases him, "Let's see when you love someone like that." Without missing a beat, Kiefer replies, "Who knows, maybe I will for you." JJ freezes, stunned, unsure whether to laugh, swoon, or panic at Kiefer's words. The next day, while in the girls' restroom, JJ notices the writings on the wall. Suddenly, she comes up with an idea. JJ shows CN and David a video on her phone that she secretly recorded in the restroom. In the video, Freya is clearly furious as she erases the writing on the wall. She even accuses Ella and speaks harshly about her. CN and David are puzzled and ask JJ what was written on the wall that made Freya so angry. JJ shows them a photo of the wall which reads, "Freya is flirtatious." At the usual hangout spot, everyone eagerly waits for Calix to read the new letter Micah gave him. As Calix opens it and begins to read, tears slowly well up in his eyes. Everyone assumes the letter contains bad news, which is why he is crying. To their surprise, he suddenly shouts in joy and hugs JJ and CN tightly. Micah has given him a second chance. The entire section cheers in excitement. It feels as if the whole class just won a contest. The next day, JJ is on her way to school when a car suddenly stops in front of her and rolls down the window. A young man, handsome, seemingly foreign, with blue eyes and speaking English, asks her for directions to Eastwood Street. JJ struggles a bit with English but manages to point him the right way. When the man asks for her name, a car suddenly honks from behind. It's Yuri. The man quickly drives off without even saying goodbye to JJ. Students of Section AE and Section E are in the gym for their PE class. The teachers are called to the principal's office for a moment, leaving the students behind. While jogging, Kiko greets JJ and she smiles back. Kiefer notices and immediately shows signs of jealousy, abruptly cutting her off. Not one to back down, JJ retaliates and blocks him as well. They chase each other playfully like children. Their classmates scream and laugh. Kiefer eventually catches JJ. But during her struggle to break free, they accidentally kiss. Everyone is shocked, especially JJ. Furious, she immediately pushes Kiefer away. Aries approaches and asks what's happening, but Kiefer shoves him away. Because of this, Aries grabs JJ to pull her aside, only for Kiefer to tug her back. The tension escalates, they both struggle over JJ as if playing a game of tug-of-war. With a strong tug from Kiefer, he forcefully kisses JJ. Everyone is stunned once again, a second round of collective shock.